Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This session is about the Harvard Open Journals program, which we are developing at Harvard Library. I'm Colleen Cressman, librarian for Open Publishing and the manager of this program. My co-presenter is Yuan Li, University Scholarly Communication Officer and director of our unit at Harvard Library called Open Scholarship and Research Data Services. In this presentation, we will discuss HOJP from conception and planning to development and launch. We will cover the motivating factors that led us to create the program and its constituent models, the importance of collaboration and fostering partnerships, and present challenges and next steps as we continue to build and strengthen the program. Let's begin with a brief overview of what HOJP is and why we're working on it. HOJP is a new Harvard Library-based initiative that aims to advance the equitable and sustainable publication of open access journals at no cost to readers seeking access and no cost to authors seeking to publish. In a nutshell, this is an initiative to support no-fee or diamond OA journals. Comprising two models, HOJP provides guidance, resources, and funding for development and stabilizing no-fee OA journals. I'll explain the models in more detail in a moment. So why develop HOJP? HOJP fits into our broader OA support strategy here at Harvard Library. In other words, our commitment to open access. Let me talk about two other initiatives we run in service of this mission. First, we run a program and service we call OA Sponsorships. Reflecting our collective aim of advancing open knowledge, Harvard Library provides financial contributions toward high-quality, no-fee open access initiatives. Candidates represent smaller dollar funding opportunities and may be memberships, networks, tools, and infrastructure, and journals or collections not already included in our traditional library collections workflows through existing library-side arrangements. So this is a way for our unit to work closely with our collection development and e-resources librarians to provide support for external no-fee OA initiatives. Second, turning to OA originating within the university, Harvard has had rights retention policies in place since 2008, spanning all of Harvard's individual schools. We've also worked with centers at the university since that time. And finally, we have a voluntary opt-in version of this opt-out policy for anyone at the university who is not otherwise covered. This recent addition is called the Individual Open Access License. So we're left with a gap, and HOJP fills it. We wanted to develop a program that would support the development of no-fee OA journals that Harvard editors are connected with. That way, Harvard would support initiatives outside the university through OA sponsorships and other means, and their development within the university to complement our existing rights retention strategy. So now you have the background, let's turn to the first of the two models under HOJP. With the academic press model, we work with Harvard editors and not-for-profit academic presses to furnish operational costs for the short term, while collaborating with partner organizations to establish community-supported funding mechanisms for the long term. In other words, the academic press model is a way of supporting the development and sustainability of no-fee OA from the inside out. It's the answer to the question, how can we work within the industry? The academic press model has a few provisions. These are what we're responsible for providing to a journal that we admit to the program. First, publisher placement. For any journal not already connected with a press, we'll help with this process as needed. This is a delicate balance, however, because we're not intending to function as agents, but we are happy to facilitate conversations and help the journal find its footing in this way. Second, policy development. HOJP will negotiate with a press on licensing and copyright as needed to align with our program requirements, which we'll get to. But you can imagine that a no-fee OA program minimally needs assurances that the journal is and will remain one that does not charge reader or author-side fees. And this is where it truly matters the sort of press you're working with. It would be difficult to imagine getting to this point if the press has no real interest in no-fee OA. So this is where librarians and editors can really join up to find a press whose aims, interests, and practices are all in harmony. Third, seed funding. HOJP will provide sole or joint funding for the short term. So far, with our current pilot that we'll speak about soon, this means we'll provide funds for up to 3 years. Fourth, community funding. Once a journal moves out of HOJP after those initial 3 years, the idea is that it will graduate to a community-supported model that we will help build. This would mean that HOJP is no longer underwriting such a high proportion of the journal's operations. Instead, our aim is for the library to continue to support the journal as if it were an OA sponsorship. This provision is currently in development, and we're working with a partner to see it through in a way that will generalize. The whole idea is to make it a little bit easier to support no-fee OA journals across institutions. So what are the basic requirements for a journal to be admitted to HOJP under this model? We're calling these requirements the core criteria, and it's our hope that other institutions who develop their own programs will adopt them too. First, no fees. Journals must not charge any author or reader side fees. Second, licensing and copyright. Journals need to use a Creative Commons license, and authors must retain copyright. Copyright retention is an emerging scholarly norm among no-fee OA journals, so we want to reflect that here. Third, journal practices. The Committee on Publication Ethics, the Directory of Open Access Journals, the Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association, and the World Association of Medical Editors have jointly published the Principles of Transparency and Best Practice in Scholarly Publishing. It's a really robust resource, so we're requiring journals to adhere to those standards that it lays out, including implementing any of the principles and practices not already in place, and we'll help with that, of course. Fourth, the DOAJ. Journals must be listed and make good faith and timely efforts to become listed if they're not already part of the Directory of Open Access Journals. This too is an immensely useful and valuable resource in our community. Finally, affiliation. HOJP has limited resources, so we can only offer admission and those specific provisions to journals with a connection to a current Harvard affiliate as editor-in-chief. In time, we may be able to adjust this condition. But I do want to stress the affiliation requirement pertains only to journals that enter HOJP and does not prevent Harvard Library acting outside this program from providing financial contributions to initiatives led by scholars, editors, and practitioners at other institutions. That's our OA sponsorships program that we talked about earlier. Harvard Library remains committed to supporting high-quality OA initiatives, irrespective of their place of origin, and will continue to support those endeavors as part of our mission to advance open knowledge. Now let's turn to the repository overlay model. Still in the early stages of development, the repository overlay model seeks to leverage open infrastructure throughout the publishing lifecycle to support repository-hosted or overlay OA journals. If the academic press model answers the question, how can we work from the inside out, the repository overlay model answers the question, how can we work from the outside in to transform scholarly publishing? Under this model, intrepid editors can work to establish new norms for the provision of high-quality OA scholarship, even if they are operating largely independently, if not entirely so, from an academic press. As for provisions, HOJP will provide support in 4 main areas. First, infrastructure. We will furnish an open source journal management system for the actual management of the publishing process. We'll also require use of DASH, Harvard's open access institutional repository, for hosting and distributing the contents, and Harvard's digital repository service for long-term preservation. We're agnostic as to the extent to which a journal uses a repository throughout the publishing lifecycle. For example, we'll leave it up to the journal as to whether the submission needs to already be posted in a repository before it proceeds to peer review, or whether an author can submit directly to the journal without taking that step of pre-posting. And because subject repositories are so popular among scholars, that's where their communities are, we also plan to help journals make use of them too. So even though we're requiring use of DASH, we also want journals to reach their communities through subject repositories as well. Second, policy development. Because these journals are likely to be starting from scratch, we'll make sure we provide guidance in key areas. Third, digital accessibility. Harvard's digital accessibility policy is super important. People with disabilities not only have a right to read content, but disabled authors, peer reviewers, and editors need to be able to fully participate in every part of the publishing lifecycle. Fourth, training. We'll help editors get up to speed with any of the infrastructure HOJP designates. Lastly, we have the core criteria that applies to the journals admitted to HOJP under this model. Unsurprisingly, the first several are the exact same as the academic press model, but the repository overlay model has one further condition. That's the condition on infrastructure that I've already alluded to. Because HOJP wants to future-proof against enclosure, vendor lock-in, and changes to governance that could lead to both of these things, we will require our journals to make use of infrastructure that we designate and trust. That doesn't mean in all cases homegrown infrastructure that Harvard owns and has built. Of course not. For example, we're thrilled to be researching open source journal management systems rather than developing one ourselves. So now we've covered both of the models under HOJP. I'll pass it over to Yuan Li to talk about the soft launch of HOJP, our pilot of the academic press model, the ways we're collaborating with other partners in the community, as well as challenges we're facing and our next steps. Take it away, Yuan.
Thank you, Colleen. As she mentioned, I'll take the next few minutes to walk you through the launch of the program, key collaborations, the challenges we are facing, and where we are headed next. After nearly 6 months of preparation, including program development, stakeholders engagement, and securing funding, we soft launched HOJP in April 2024. Following the soft launch in May 2024, we began a pilot project under the academic press model in partnership with MIT Libraries and MIT Press. Harvard Library and MIT Libraries jointly committed to funding OpenMind for a 3-year term. The journal is published by MIT Press and co-edited by Harvard faculty member Sam Gershman and MIT faculty member Ed Gibson. As Colleen mentioned earlier, the academic press model provides short-term seed funding and helps develop a sustainable, community-supported business model for the long term. Since November 2024, we have begun planning and developing such a model, which aims to bring together shared funding from libraries and academic partners to support scholar-led, no-fee open access journals. While we got a head start with the academic press model, we haven't set aside the repository overlay model. Earlier this year, we submitted an internal funding application to support its development. As with many innovative initiatives, HOJP is not without its challenges. Currently, the most pressing one is financial. Like many other universities, perhaps even more so, Harvard is under significant budget pressure due to the federal government's freeze on billions of dollars in research funding. While HOJP remains a strategic priority, we are proceeding with caution as we await greater clarity on the budget landscape. As a result, we have temporarily paused some new development and planning efforts to ensure we are making responsible and sustainable decisions for the future. Looking ahead, future budget uncertainty remains a concern. As we continue developing sustainable models for no-fee OE publishing, financial stability will be a key consideration. Despite these challenges, we have several clear next steps. We will begin year 2 of support for OpenMind in ongoing collaboration with MIT Libraries, continuing to reinforce the value of scholar-led no-fee OE publishing models. We will continue planning a multi-institutional community-supported model to help ensure the long-term sustainability of no-fee OE journals. And finally, we will reassess opportunities for developing the repository overlay model, refining our approach based on available resources and evolving institutional priorities. Overall, Harvard Library remains deeply committed to developing and promoting equitable and sustainable no-fee OE publishing models, which align closely with our strategic direction of advancing open knowledge. Thank you very much for your time and interest. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.